Some men remember the day they fell in love like it was painted in gold. Me, I remember the smell of her perfume the day she ruined my life. That I met Allison in a hardware store, not exactly the kind of place you expect to stumble into the love of your life, but there she was, aisle 9, holding a paint sample and squinting at it like it held the secrets of the universe. She asked me for an opinion on eggshell versus pearl white. That I told her pearl. She smiled like I just passed some invisible test. That's how it started. She was everything I wasn't. Artistic, spontaneous, wildly charming. A creative director at a boutique marketing firm. That I was the logistics guy, warehouses, contracts, moving parts. She colored outside the lines. That I made sure the lines got printed on time. Opposites attract, right? That's what I told myself when I found her humming in the kitchen the morning after our first night together, barefoot and twirling a spoon like it was a conductor's baton. 6 months later, I proposed. A year after that, we got married in a vineyard in California. I paid for the whole thing. Tuxedos, catering, the rustic barn with Edison bulbs she'd been dreaming about since she was 17. And I was happy to do it, because when I looked at her, I saw my future. When she looked at me, I thought I saw the same. That I bought us a home outside Dallas, 3 bedrooms, tall windows, old trees in the backyard that dropped leaves like confetti in the fall. That I refinanced a property I owned just to afford the down payment. She cried when she saw the master bathroom, said she finally felt safe. We built a life from scratch. Or I thought we did. There's a kind of silence that follows betrayal. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet. A stillness that settles in your chest like frost. That I came home early on a Thursday. It was raining, one of those slow, soaking Texas rains that makes the air heavy. She was supposed to be at a branding workshop in Austin. That I only came back because I left my laptop at home. That I opened the front door and smelled her perfume. That wasn't unusual, but there was something else beneath it. A warmth. A sharpness, laughter. A man's voice. That I followed the sound to the den, and there she was. Half-dressed, sitting on the lap of a man I recognized from her work Christmas party, a copywriter named Derek. They froze. So did I. Time didn't slow down. It stopped. She stood up like she'd been caught stealing, not like she'd just burned a marriage to the ground. He mumbled something about leaving. She didn't stop him. All she said was, "I didn't think you'd be home." That's what gutted me, not the cheating, not even the lies, the casual way she said it, like my presence was the inconvenience. That I didn't shout. Didn't throw anything. That I just walked outside, sat in my truck and stared at the steering wheel until the rain stopped and the sun started coming up again. That I didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of something darker, not just the end of a marriage, the end of who I was. Because betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It rewires it. They say you don't really know someone until you divorce them. I learned that in a courthouse under fluorescent lights across from a woman who once whispered she'd love me forever. The Allison I married had a crooked smile and a habit of talking in her sleep. The Allison I divorced wore navy blazers, spoke through attorneys, and didn't flinch when I lost everything. After I caught her with Derek, I didn't yell. Didn't make a scene. I just packed a bag and drove to a motel near the interstate. I thought we'd split things down the middle. Sell the house, divide the accounts, go our separate ways like two adults who simply failed at love. I was naive, because she didn't want half, she wanted everything. The first blow came 2 weeks later. A thick envelope from a downtown law firm, notice of petition for divorce and motion for temporary orders. Inside was a list of demands so aggressive I thought it was a mistake. She wanted the house, the CARWY business stake, 10 years of blood, sweat, and 18-hour days. She even requested spousal support. Said she'd sacrificed her career to support my ambitions, despite the fact that she never once left her job. I found out later her lawyer was the same one who handled her coworker's high-conflict divorce. Apparently, they specialized in strategic dissolution. Translation: burn the other side to the ground. She froze my accounts by claiming I might flee with marital assets. She told mutual friends I'd been emotionally abusive, erratic, even threatening. One guy at the gym, someone I'd known for years, actually asked if it was true that I'd gone off the rails. All because I caught my wife cheating and didn't want to bankroll her next chapter. I fought back, hired a lawyer. A bulldog named Meyer with a voice like gravel and no tolerance for theatrics, but he warned me, "You're not just divorcing a woman. You're divorcing a strategy." And the strategy was working. 6 months in, I was sleeping on a buddy's pull-out couch, living out of 2 duffel bags and selling off gear to stay afloat. I lost 3 major clients because Allison claimed ownership of the company's name, something I trademarked after we were married. The court granted her temporary control of our joint accounts and even our dog, Scout. That one stung. Scout always curled up on my side of the bed. Now she posted pictures with him on Instagram, like we were ghosts already, but the worst part, her eyes in court, cold, steady, like she was just filing paperwork, like this wasn't a life, my life, she was bulldozing, but just another project to wrap up before wine night with her girlfriends that I hit bottom about 8 months in, bank account nearly dry, business reputation bruised, sleeping in a converted storage room behind a mechanic shop owned by an old college buddy. That's when I stopped reacting. Stopped hoping for fairness or closure or decency, started planning. You see, Allison played offense. She thought I'd roll over. She forgot what I'm like when cornered. So I built something in the dark, quietly, carefully, that I called it the long game, and she never saw it coming. The thing about hitting rock bottom, you stop fearing the fall. That I lived on protein bars and black coffee. My phone was always on silent, not because I wanted peace, but because I couldn't handle more rejection emails. That I'd lost the house, the car, the dog, hell, even the espresso machine she took in the settlement. All I had left was a rusted out Ford Ranger, a laptop with 2 dead keys, and one stubborn belief: this wouldn't be how my story ended. That I called my new company Stone Ridge Logistics, named it after the road I used to drive when I was a broke college kid with a beat-up Honda and big plans. Felt poetic somehow, like circling back to something pure, but poetic doesn't pay the bills. That I cold emailed every business in a 200-mile radius. Warehouses, retailers, construction suppliers. Most didn't reply, some told me flat out they weren't interested. One guy wrote back just to correct my grammar. That I worked days as a delivery contractor, nights building spreadsheets and mock pitches, weekends I'd sit in the back of cheap networking events, handing out business cards I printed at a FedEx Kinko's. That I pitched guys in parking lots, at gas stations, once even in a hospital waiting room. Sleep was a luxury. Self-doubt was a roommate. Some days I thought about giving up, getting a job, swallowing my pride, starting over on someone else's terms, but then I'd think of Allison, sitting in the house I paid for, wearing that same perfume, sipping wine while I ate ramen out of a thermos, and I'd keep going. 3 months in, I landed a small courier contract, $400 a week. That IT wasn't glamorous, but it was oxygen. That I reinvested every dollar, bought used shelving, upgraded my website, leased a tiny unit in a strip mall between a vape shop and a failing nail salon. That I couldn't afford signage, so I painted the logo myself, lopsided but proud. That I burned out twice, once ended with me passed out on the office floor, half-eaten sandwich in one hand, open invoice in the other. But I didn't stop, because I'd finally tasted motion, and motion meant I wasn't trapped in her shadow anymore. The turning point came on a rainy Wednesday. A regional supply company, Crescent Materials, called. The guy on the line was named Richard Flores. That he sounded skeptical, said he'd seen my pitch deck, liked the numbers, but wasn't sold. That I told him, straight, I've got nothing but time, grit, and a chip on my shoulder the size of Texas. Give me 2 weeks to no pay, let me prove what I can do. Silence. Then, you serious? Dead serious? Fine. That you've got 1 week. That week, I didn't sleep. That I built tracking dashboards, picked up shipments myself, double-checked every unit down to the damn serial codes. By Friday, Richard emailed one line: you're hired. I stared at that screen for a long time, not smiling, not fist-pumping, just sitting there, feeling the weight start to lift. That contract kept me afloat. Then came another, and another. Word spread. 2 years later, Stone Ridge Logistics had 5 employees, 3 delivery trucks, and a client list that included names I used to beg to even look at me. That I wasn't rich, but I was free, and I built it myself. One night, I stood in the new office, larger, cleaner, quiet. That I looked out the window at the city lights. I didn't think about Allison, not really. But I did think about how far I'd come since the day she tried to bury me, and how she was about to find out. You never bury a man who knows how to rise. There's a kind of silence that only comes after you've fought your way through a storm, not the kind of silence that feels empty. No, this one's earned, built from long nights, hard choices, and the satisfaction of knowing you didn't fold when everything in you screamed to walk away. That was my life now. 3 years post-divorce, and I could finally say it out loud: I was okay, not just surviving, living. Stone Ridge Logistics had outgrown the strip mall. We now occupied a clean, 2-story office space near the interstate, glass walls, fresh paint, a real front desk. That I had a team of 20, payroll, retirement plans, the whole thing. Clients trusted us, vendors respected us, competitors watched us, and I had finally grown into the kind of man I used to only pretend to be: focused, measured, unshakable. That I still worked hard, but I didn't grind myself into dust anymore. That I delegated, took weekends, started running again, reading again. The man who once slept on a storage room floor was now someone employees asked for advice, not pity. The bitterness that used to ride shotgun with me everywhere I went, it had faded. Some things you don't forget, but you do outgrow them. On a Monday morning in September, my operations lead walked into my office with a laptop and a grin. Got those resumes you wanted to see, she said. We're filling the new client success roles by next month. I nodded, took the laptop, scrolled, pages of names, backgrounds, experience levels that I skimmed out of habit, looking more for instinct than qualifications, something in a name, a cover letter, a tone of voice. Then I saw it, Allison Whitaker, client experience, 8+ years, last position, creative consultant, contract. Skills, CRM systems, client retention strategy, copywriting. That my chest didn't tighten, them my palms didn't sweat, but for one sharp moment, the room felt very still. That I clicked the PDF, her resume was well formatted, polished. Of course it was, and the cover letter. I'm eager to bring my experience to a growing values-driven company with a reputation for client loyalty and strong culture. She didn't realize whose company she was applying to. I closed the file, sat back. For a long minute, I didn't think about what she did to me. I thought about how far I'd come, how far I'd climbed, not in spite of her, but without her. It was a strange kind of full circle. She was out there, looking for a door, and she had just knocked on mine. I looked out the window, the trucks were moving in the lot. Phones ringing at the front, people working, building, thriving. My company. I smiled, not from malice, from clarity, because fate has a sense of humor. And mine had just delivered me a punchline wrapped in a job application. Some moments arrive like storms, others, like a slow, rising tide. Her name had been sitting in the final pile for 2 weeks. I approved the hire with a pen that didn't shake. No special treatment. No hints, just initials on paper. A.W. Hired. On probation. Like everyone else, when onboarding day came, I didn't go down to the lobby. I didn't hover. I didn't speak her name to anyone. I just waited, let the moment come to me. Tuesday morning. 9:03 a.m. My assistant buzzed in. Final new hires here. She's in the group orientation. You want to swing by later? I took a sip of coffee. No need, let HR run their playbook. You got it, boss. 3 hours later, I stepped into the break room for water. She was standing by the fridge, reading the label on a soda. It hit her like a slap. She turned, eyes widened, just a flicker, then tried to correct, shoulders stiffened, posture straightened, like muscle memory was fighting to regain dignity. Hi, she said, voice too casual. I nodded once. Good morning. Her hand gripped the edge of the counter. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and I walked past, calm, unshaken, like she was any other new face in the building, because that's what I needed her to feel, forgettable. For the next few days I watched from the shadows of routine, not out of spite, out of precision. She was quieter than I remembered, less vibrant. Her laugh didn't light up rooms anymore. It hovered, cautious, like someone waiting for the punchline to hit them. Instead, she avoided my floor unless necessary, spoke politely, smiled with effort, but I saw the glances, the way her eyes lingered just a little too long on the nameplate outside my office. J. Maddox, founder and CEO. A name she once wore beside her own, now it sat above hers. Friday. 6:17 p.m. The office was nearly empty. My jacket was over the chair, sleeves rolled up, inbox cleared for the weekend. I was ready to leave when the knock came, soft, uncertain. I didn't look up at first. Come in, I said. The door creaked. She stepped in like she was entering a church. Allison, I said coolly, what can I do for you? She hesitated. I didn't realize it was your company, when I applied. I kept my expression neutral. It's on the website. She swallowed. I didn't go that deep. I just needed the work, and when I saw the logo, the name, I didn't connect it until orientation. I nodded slowly. I see. Silence. I wanted to say, I know this is uncomfortable, and I wasn't sure if I should even come in here, but I owe you an apology. I met her eyes for the first time. They weren't confident, they weren't cold, they were haunted. I hurt you, she continued. I know that I was selfish, cruel, and you didn't deserve what I did to you. No excuses. I leaned back in my chair, let the silence stretch, and then I said it, calm and measured. You're here to work, nothing more. What's in the past stays in the past. Keep showing up on time, deliver what you're paid for. Will be just fine. Her breath hitched. She nodded, understood. She turned to leave, then paused like she wanted to say more, but I was already looking back at my monitor, and she walked out. she thought her apology would give her some peace, but peace doesn't come from words, that it comes from consequence, and that was still on its way. Some wounds stop bleeding long before they stop aching. That I sat in my office after hours, the blinds drawn against the dark outside. The building was quiet, just the hum of climate control and the occasional pop from the wood of the desk that I in. My hand was a whiskey glass, untouched. That it wasn't about drinking, that it was about thinking. Allison had been working here a month now. She kept her head down, never asked for favors, spoke when spoken to. She was competent, even good, at the job. Clients liked her. She played her role well, but that's all it was, a role, polite, measured, careful, like she was always walking barefoot across a floor filled with glass. And I let her, because I still hadn't decided. There were moments I'd find myself staring at the closed door of her office, remembering the man I used to be, the man who paid off her credit cards, who brought her soup when she was sick, who let her cry in his arms over career setbacks and dead dreams, the man she cheated on, lied about, and tried to erase. That I remembered sleeping in my truck during that first legal hearing. That I remembered the panic attack in the courthouse bathroom. The friend who stopped taking my calls because she poisoned the narrative. The day the last client walked away, she stripped me to the bone, and now, she worked under my name. That I could bury her if I wanted to. Point one word to HR and she'd be escorted out. That no letter of recommendation. That no chance of stability, just another hard landing in a city that chews up reputations. That I had the power now, and not because I stole it, because I earned it. But here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It's loud in your head but quiet in your hands. You imagine the fire, the drama, the moment of triumph, but when it's finally yours, it's just a file on a desk and a decision no one will see you make. That I looked at her resume again that night, not to dwell, just to remind myself. She listed teamwork as a strength. Funny that I ran my hand down my face, the weight of everything pressing down again, not like a punch, but like a fatigue that lives in your spine. Would ending her now balance the scales? Would it make that young version of me, the one who stood in the rain, betrayed and broken, feel whole again? Or would I just become her in a better suit? There's a quote I once read, couldn't remember who said it, just that it stuck. Revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'd lived through hell, but I walked out stronger. She was still stuck in it, still surviving, not thriving, still chasing something she couldn't name. Me, I had peace. A legacy. A name that meant something now, not because of what I lost, but because of what I built. And that was something no scorched earth policy could ever match. That I stood, poured the whiskey down the sink and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, she'd still come to work, still glance at my office like a ghost afraid of judgment, and I'd let her, because forgiveness isn't always mercy. Sometimes, it's power in its purest form. Some victories don't come with applause, they come with silence, the kind that follows a man who's already moved on. Allison still worked 3 doors down. She still showed up early, left late, did her job, smiled when she had to, said, "Good morning," when we passed in the hallway. And I never stopped her. I didn't fire her. Didn't scold her. Didn't speak her name in meetings, or out of them, and that was the sentence, because the worst punishment for someone like her isn't confrontation. It's irrelevance. She once had the power to wreck me. To turn my world inside out, to strip me of home, pride, stability. And now, she couldn't so much as draw my attention for more than a passing nod. I watched her shrink in real time, not physically, but in presence, the weight of her choices catching up, not in some dramatic collapse, but in the small things. She stopped wearing bright colors, she hesitated more in meetings. Once I saw her flinch when someone asked about her past roles. The woman who once walked through life like it owed her something, was learning what it meant to be ordinary. One afternoon, I passed her in the hallway. She was holding a client folder. Our eyes met. She gave a faint smile, unsure, searching. I just nodded once and kept walking, not out of cruelty, out of clarity, because I had nothing left to prove, not to her, not to anyone. The day she turned in her resignation, she left the letter on my desk. Herself, simple. 2 weeks notice and no explanation. Just a signature. I didn't call her in. Didn't ask why. Didn't thank her. I signed the bottom, handed it to HR, closed the file, and that was that. Her last day came on a Thursday. She stood by the elevator with a cardboard box, the same way I once packed my things years ago, when she forced me out of my own home. Now she was leaving my building. The difference, I walked out with nothing. She walked out knowing she'd never be remembered for anything more than what she used to be. She glanced back one last time. I saw it in her eyes, the question, the hope for a goodbye. A final word. A crack in the mask But I just stood in my office, arms crossed, silent, not cold, just, done. The elevator doors closed, and with them, so did that chapter that I went home that night to a quiet place I built with my own hands, the kind of home that doesn't echo with someone else's betrayal. There were no ghosts in the halls and no perfume haunting the sheets, just peace, earned, unshakable. That I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, sun setting slow over the ridge, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel heavy. That I didn't feel angry. Or vindicated. Or haunted. That I just felt free, because sometimes the final word is saying nothing at all.